on, guys? It's Wednesday, and that means it's paintball gun time. Is it okay to leave air in your paintball gun? Are Field 1 or MacDev coming out with new popit valve guns the most lacking skill for tournament players or teams? Zachary Barrios, is it okay to leave your tank on your gun with air in it? I've already kind of answered a question very similar to this, and that was whether you should leave air just in your tank or not. If you want to check that out, there's a link right there. I'm not sure if there really is a definitive answer to this, but we do know that when your paintball gun is like sealed, holding air, ready to shoot, ready to fire, whatever it is, we know that those O-rings or seals are doing their job. And then those seals and O-rings definitely are gonna last a little bit longer when they are doing their job, when they're sealing or they're compressed. So I guess in theory, yeah, the O-rings inside your gun will last longer, and that is better for those O-rings if you do leave air in the gun. And then there's also springs on the inside of these guns and not just O-rings. So most of these guns have springs, whether it's in like the regulator, like somewhere on the bolt, or like in a solenoid. And the springs are definitely gonna wear out if they're like constantly being used or constantly under pressure. So you have a gun that has a regulator on it, that regulator is going to have air in it, and then it's going to be constantly compressing the spring. And then yeah, eventually that spring will wear out from just being compressed, leaving air in a gun. So yeah, technically leaving air in the gun will make the O-rings last longer, but it's probably only going to add like a few months onto the lifespan of an O-ring, so that like 10 or 15 year lifespan might be 15 years and 3 months now. So yeah, you're going to have that lifespan of 10 to 15 years, but you also think if your gun's being used, the O-rings are definitely not going to last that long. They're going to have wear, there's going to be friction, so little bits of O-ring will wear off over time. That 10 to 15 year thing is just if an O-ring is sitting in a gun and like never used. And then yeah, the springs are going to wear out faster if you leave air in a gun, but springs are lasting like forever. A very, very long time. It's extremely rare for the springs to like wear out or break or something like that. But it matters what springs we're talking about. So some of these like larger springs that are coming in Titmans and Spiders, or some of those like big, thick, chunky springs that are coming in regulators, they don't break or go bad, like nothing happens to those. But some of these like mid-range or higher end guns that have these pneumatic solenoids that do have some really teeny and kind of small springs, those springs can go bad and can kind of wear out because they're so thin and like a little bit more delicate than those like big Titman and Spider springs. But it's still gonna be really rare. One thing I do try to tell people though, when they're trying to like leave air in a tank or like a gun for a really long time, is these guns and tanks aren't really designed to hold air indefinitely. So you can't expect to come back like 6 months later and have like a full tank or your gun still be gassed up, because it might not. They don't really design them to hold air forever. It's just like designed to hold air to go play paintball with. So most of these guns probably do have little teeny microscopic leaks you can't really hear, but you might see a loss in pressure over like 6 months or something like that. If you're worried about losing pressure in a tank, you're probably better off just storing that tank off the gun. Because there's maybe like 8 places that a tank can leak, and on some of these like higher end, more advanced guns, there could be like 60 to 70 places that a gun could leak at. So you're just more likely to have a gun leaking and then lose all that air than a tank, just because there's fewer spaces that a tank can leak. So yeah, I guess you could leave air in your gun if you want O-rings to last a little bit longer, but then yeah, do think about the springs wearing out maybe. But either way, it doesn't really matter. I don't know, I don't want to leave my stuff all assembled, so I'm always taking stuff apart and like taking the tank off and leaving guns separate and all that stuff. But it doesn't really matter all that much. Ben Greenfield asks, with the Planet Eclipse LV1/1.5 seeing a resurgence, do you think we will see a new Field 1/Bob Long Intimidator or MacDev Cyborg? Yep, at least I've heard from Field 1 that we will at some point. I would be pretty surprised though if we see anything from MacDev. And without question, yeah, Planet Eclipse's LV1.5 has like reinvigorated the pop valve market, and then has piqued interest with players. I know for myself, I didn't really think I'd ever own a pop valve gun again. I felt like the G6R was gonna be my last popit valve gun, but look now, I have an LV1.5. And I've really only ever owned one spool valve gun, the GO3.5, and before that I had like Intimidators and Angels, and then kind of most recently Axes. Eric Crandall from Field 1 has said that they are working on a new pop valve gun or like a follow-up to the G6R, but at this point, I don't know what's happening. Field 1 took over Bob Long about 1.5 years ago, and we still yet to like see anything concrete or an actual gun from them. Originally, they said they were gonna have their new spool valve gun, the Force, and the MVP2 out by the end of 2017. And they're also gonna try to work on having a new G6R or like a G7R or something like that out by the end of 2018. We have not seen a Force or an MVP2 yet, so who knows on the new Intimidator or the G7R? I have no idea. I would like to see that though, so keep your fingers crossed. I can't see MacDev doing it though, because I still feel like making a pop valve gun is still kind of a gamble. Even though we're talking about how popular the LV1.5 is, I know that the CS1.5 outsells it, it, like I'll bet it's like 20 to 1. So they're selling 20 CS 1.5s and then like 1 LV 1.5. And for a smaller company like MacDev to come out with a pop valve gun, it's still a bit of a gamble. And I don't know if they're gonna do it. The last MacDev pop valve gun, the Cyborg 6, it was a bit of a flop. It was kind of terrible and not the greatest paintball gun. They would have to make something much, much better than even the LV 1.5 to be able to sell any guns. Like I feel like at this point, people just don't have faith in the Cyborg guns. With Planet Eclipse and the LV 1.5, they kind of didn't have to do anything. They kind of just made it look different, mainly because they had all that research and development kind of all paid for and done with the original LV1 that came out like 5 years ago. And then the MacDev guys, Anfield one, would have to like completely redesign guns and spend a bunch of money to get something up and going. So I don't know. Maybe Jason Macon asks, what do you think is the most lacking skill for new tournament players or teams? Let's break that up 2 categories, players and then teams. I think running and shooting for players, I think it's the most important individual skill and probably the hardest to master. That's one of the biggest differences I think between these pro players and divisional players, the ability to run and shoot. Being able to get a better angle on your opponent while running and shooting can be a huge advantage. Being able to run and shoot off the break at your opponents while they're also standing out in the open can mean getting that extra kill off the break. Being able to run and shoot at an opposing player while you're moving to another bunker can also help keep that player in so they can't shoot back at you. Running and shooting when you're moving to another bunker can help you get that like surprise shot on another player before they have time to like react and like pull a gun over and shoot at you. And like I said, I think it's one of the hardest things to actually master, mainly because it takes like effort on the field and effort off. It's gonna require you doing running and shooting drills and then also some sort of strength. Like I think a lot of this running and shooting stuff is you being as stable from like the waist up. So it's gonna require arm strength and core strength. So there are a lot of drill videos on this YouTube platform thing. We'll put a link in the description to some of those. And then core work, you have to have a strong abdominal region. There's tons of core work out there. Just start doing sit-ups and planking and whatever. Get that core strong. Mine's gushy. As far as teams go, I feel like we can always say communication. Like every team can be better at communicating, but let's take this somewhere else. Let's say containment. Most younger teams don't even think about this. Maybe some of you guys do this, but don't actually consciously think about doing it. Like I said earlier, when running and shooting, you want to get a better angle on your opponent. So stopping the other team from getting that better angle has to be like a priority on the paintball field all the time. You always hear like we need to stop the guy getting to the snake or we need to stop them from getting wide. But really what you're doing is not just stopping them getting to a bunker. What you're stopping that team from doing is getting a better angle on you. Because ultimately how you shoot people is just better angles. You want to be able to get to the side of people and like shoot them in the side, stuff like that. So moving wide is typically how you obtain that better angle. So let's use a 3-on-3 situation. Let's say on the left side of this World Cup 2017 layout, we have a guy in the snake corner, a guy in this center-ish tall cake, and the Dorito 3. On the right side, we're gonna have snake corner, back center, and Dorito 2. Let's say the guys on the left side shoot the back right out. Now it's a 3-on-2. So most likely what's gonna happen is those guys on the right side that only have 2 bodies left are gonna try to play as defensive as possible so that one guy in the back center is gonna try to shift over to the snake side to just get wider, get some better angles on the opponents and to reduce his angle from the left side of the field so it makes it a little bit harder for him to get shot. Maybe he's able to get wide and then live a little bit longer, but it's a left side of the field's job to make sure he doesn't do that, so he doesn't get wide. So the back right guy or the snake side corner guy is gonna wanna wrap, shoot at the right side of his bunker, and then just put paint on the edge or the right side of the back center's bunker, making it difficult for him to shift or run out the left side of the bunker. Or in other words, stopping him from getting wider on the snake side. So if the left side is able to keep that guy in that back center bunker, they can keep encroaching up the field and then get better angles on him and then hopefully, yeah, just shoot guys in the side. So containment, like keeping guys in the center of the field where they don't have as good of angles, and it makes it much harder for those guys to live when they are in the center and don't have wide field position. So in short, yeah, for individual players, running and shooting, that's something you're gonna have to work on really solely by yourself, whether that's strength and conditioning your body, or just doing running and shooting drills, just getting better at actual gun skills. And that containment thing is definitely like a team thing. You're gonna have to like talk about that with other team members and discuss containment and how you wanna do it. And like just that, I don't know what containment actually is. Guys, that's paintball question time. To have your question submitted, do use hashtag PBQT, or just leave a comment below. If it's good, I'll answer it on here. Check out more paintball question times right up there.